What's up, y'all? Down South 77 here, and this is 3 Star Draw. This is an adult collector channel where we talk about G.I. Joe and G.I. Joe related things, primarily G.I. Joe classified. Every now and then we will wander off into other property territory. Won't be too often, but I will be taking a look at some other stuff. Got to diversify a little bit, but we're mainly here to talk about G.I. Joe, right? That's what I'm about. So today I'm going to get back to my Limelight series video, and this is where I take a character and a figure and I put it in the limelight. Talk a little bit about that character's history, maybe my attachment to the character, kind of what the character is, what it might mean to the line, and I like to put up some media for it, some one of the comics or something in the background. If you watch the other videos, you know how I do. So today's video is the result of a poll that I put up, and I really haven't left the poll up very long. I just put it up yesterday, as a matter of fact, but I had the same number of votes as I did in the last poll that I put up that was up for like 3 weeks before I made the video. So I'm guessing that's all the votes the poll's going to get. So the clear winner in this poll was none other than Shipwreck, one of my favorite characters. I just talked about him in a video I made recently about the announcement of characters that made me go ahead and throw my hat in the ring for collecting the classified line. So I'm going to take him, get him out. I've got my original Shipwreck from '85, and we're going to check him out and take a look at Mr. Hector Delgado. All right, let's talk about Hector X Delgado. Did we ever figure out what the X was for? I don't know if we ever learned what the X was for. So anyway, he was a 1985 figure. 85 is my favorite year for G.I. Joe. I think 85 is the best year we ever got for figures and especially vehicles. They ramped it up big time in 85 and 86 for vehicles. Just the number of characters that are my favorite characters, like the tops of the list. 85 was where most of them come from, although, of course, Cobra Commander was very early, and then Scrap Iron was 84. But the rest of them, most of them were 85. So Mr. Hector here hails from Chula Vista, California. Anybody out there from Chula Vista? I mean, it's got to be a real place. I don't know. I've never been to California, but it seems like everything is a Santa or a Vista out there. So his primary military specialty is a gunner's mate, and his secondary is a machinist. So he worked on stuff and fixed stuff and pretty much learned how to do everything. Grew up in the shadow of the Navy, grew up in a sprawling shadow of the San Diego Navy Yards. He enlisted in the Navy at the youngest possible age with his parents' permission and served with distinction and blah, 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 blah. Saw a lot of action. Graduated Naval Gunnery School in the Great Lakes. Qualified with pretty much all the standard stuff, M16, M14, the best gun ever, the Browning 50 cal, all that kind of stuff. Anti-aircraft gun, like for on the battleships and stuff. So Shipwreck is your quintessential sailor. He can splice a line, fry powdered eggs in the tooth of a gale and eat them, tell taller tales than a Senate Appropriation Committee, jugglers, and take a 3-day liberty in Thule, Greenland, and come back smiling. I guess Thule, Greenland is a pretty boring place. I'm sure it's cold. So I don't have the V2 of Shipwreck. I never had him. He didn't come out until I think '94, and by the time he come out and got to '94, he was a SEAL. He was part of, I believe, the Battle Corps line. That's correct here. I think so. Yeah, it's Battle Corps, and he had graduated up to a Navy SEAL. So his later file card actually highlights that he was now a SEAL. So Shipwreck was badass to begin with, and was kind of rough and tumble, and then he got even more badasser as time progressed. I would like to see a version of Shipwreck not based on the V2, but on the Devil's Due version of Shipwreck. And that one come out in, let's see, when did that one come out? That one come out in 2002. The G.I. Joe vs. Cobra line was a 2-pack with the bat. I had all of that line, and I had most all of the Valor vs. Venom back then. Um, but I would like to see, that's the Shipwreck that has the beanie and kind of has the cable knit sweater and the cross shoulder holster. Um, I would like to see that one. He looks more like a longshore boatman or something than a sailor. Not that there's anything, of course, wrong with that, because I love this look. But I'd like to see that version of him down the line, and I think we'll get him as they incorporate stuff. So I've got my trusty old Order of Battle, except this is issue 2. We usually look at the Cobra issue. This is the second issue of the Joe ones that gets into the latter alphabet. Good illustration of he and Polly there. If you want to pause that, it pretty much is his file card and everything, but here with this really cool illustration of him, that's probably one of the best illustrations of Shipwreck that I've seen. Of course, he's got Polly there, probably talking some kind of shit in his ear, and he's with a look on his face. Shut up, bird. So I like Polly. I know a lot of people hate Polly, but hey, there's Short Fuse. You think we'll ever get him in Classified? And I have over here his first appearance in issue 40. This is my original issue 40. Love that cover with Roadblock. This is one of the best naval issues, if not the best naval issue of the Real American Hero comic. I love this issue. Also has some very key first appearances, most notably Barbecue, but also the title right there. It's the first time we see the hydrofoil, and this whole thing, the battle platform is in here. This whole issue is great. It's kind of like the showdown issue with Ace and Wild Weasel. This is probably the best naval issue. And I've been trying to go through, after I've been reading the omnibus a little bit. I've been going through and I've got this gigantic tote of pictures, right? Like it's a tote, a storage tote of pictures. It's bigger than what you see here. It's bigger than this, and it's probably a foot or 18 inches tall, full of pictures. And after reading through the omnibus, I know I have pictures of me getting all of these G.I. Joe toys for birthdays and Christmases and whatnot. So I have spent this last weekend going through them, trying to find all of these pictures. And I found the ones I knew were there, and I'm actually glad I did it, because I found a bunch that I didn't know I had that I don't remember seeing because they weren't in our photo albums and whatnot. So I've been going through these pictures, and I'm going to do a slideshow or a reel or something at some point. I'm going to scan them in, and I've got to go through and try to crop out other people that are in them. But I did find, when I decided to go ahead and do this Shipwreck video, and I got this issue out, and I was flipping through it. So there's the first time we see him coming on deck there, and he just shoves Rakondo out of the way. And it's like, you gonna call me anything? You best call me Shipwreck, since I don't answer to anything else. You landlubber, what in the hell are you doing on the middle of the tactical battle platform anyway, Rakondo, dressed in your jungle camo? Get the hell out of there. So, that hydrofoil, that got me thinking. I found a picture of the hydrofoil, and I guess this was Christmas of '85. Check that out right there. There's little me. That was a good Christmas. But over here, opening all my stuff, I got an Atari. But what do you spy there? There it is. I was trying to remember when I got the hydrofoil, but evidently it was that Christmas. There's some other pictures of this that'll be in that slideshow. I racked up that Christmas, man. I must have listened to a lot of arguing from mom and dad that year, because I racked up. So this issue here is, like I said, good issue. And at the very end of it, see that? Boom. And then you read that. We tricked the Joes into blowing the fault line, and thus forward springs Cobra Island. setting up the best arc and issues of the Real American Hero comic was the whole Cobra Island and all the way from here up through like late 70s. So let's take a look at the man himself. Here's my original Shipwreck that I had before that Christmas. I got him sometime throughout the year, summer, I'm sure. And Shipwreck has seen better days. Uh, like many of my original figures, his O-ring is toast. I like to use percentages, so I would estimate 65% of my original figures need their O-rings replaced, and I'm so scared of taking that screw out. I've replaced a few O-rings. I did a few back in the early 2000s, and by now most of those probably need to be replaced too. But oh, wait a minute there. Get a little ahead of ourselves, Shippy. Son of a bitch. All right. I always liked this figure. I've mentioned before, I always liked the environmental theme Joes. Torpedo was my first Joe, and they really went hard on the naval theme in '85. Um, I was never in the armed forces, but the time that I should have done it, but I didn't. So the time that I was considering it, I was going to go either Navy or Coast Guard because I like the water so much. So having that in my head when I was in 1985, all of the water stuff really did appeal to me, and I really like the water Joes. His Polly has long since squawked her last squawk. I have no idea where my Polly is. I don't know where his gun is. His boarding hook. I don't know where any of that stuff is. I wish I had it, especially the gun, but I do have it right here. So let's take a look at the classified version. This is how I keep him on my shelf. I like this look here. I've got Polly perched there on his arm, as you can see. So he does have over here. They give him the tattoo. They swapped the tattoo. They swapped arms and put this one. It's over here on his left arm on the classified, and then they added the anchor. I like that. He's a sailor. I don't know if I've ever met anybody that was in the Navy that didn't have tattoos. I'm sure they're out there, but I don't think any of the people I've ever personally met in the Navy don't have tattoos. Actually, one dude. I know one dude that didn't get one. Take that back. So we got his boarding hook, but they didn't give us any rope or twine or anything for it. So this is just the fasteners that were in those packages. Then I'm gonna miss these things because, of course, we all hate the janky, the plastic ties that ruin our figures. But now we're gonna be getting back to the trays, and I like the trays, but if they're all like Mutton Junkyard, the stuff's in there so tight you bend it getting it out anyway. But this was just a cheap, easy way. I haven't gone through and completely trimmed it down, but this stuff will come untied, so I kind of left the ends on it. This is just a good, cheap option to give him some kind of a boarding hook. I love this thing. It does hook on his belt here. It will hook on there. And if you use a different kind of twine or something, you can roll it up better. If you use like fishing line, I've seen a lot of people use fishing line, but I kind of wanted to see it. So I don't usually keep it on the figure. I usually just keep this in the bag. But for doing pictures or anything, I mean, you definitely want something on there so it can look like he's boarding. So he does have that, and he does have this rope, which I like. I mean, it's a cool little molded accessory there, but it's kind of a punch in the dick getting this plastic rope and then getting this very cool grappling hook, but giving us nothing to, I've got imagination, but let's throw the hook up here, and he's just like, oh, imaginary line. Okay, it's not 1985 anymore. This dude was 20 whatever dollars. Give me a piece of rope or something with him. I mean, Wolf Spider, they give us the rope and nowhere to hang it. Like, you couldn't reuse this? I get it if you can't make a carabiner, but you can't reuse that. You reused everything else for Wolf Spider. So we got him here. We got Shippy. Polly's got this weird peg leg. I didn't realize that they did this with Polly because I didn't know, when these guys were announced, this was when I got into classified. He is the first figure that I got that was shipped to me from Pulse. I'd gotten the bat and I got rock and roll early because I jumped the gun on BBTS and got rock and roll. But he was the first figure that I received from Pulse. I got him and I think Copperhead. No, I don't remember. But he was the first. So I think they did a good job updating him. People kind of complained about the chest hair. I like it. He's a big, tough, manly sailor dude. I mean, he dressed. This is how he wore his shirt. This is how he looked. It's appropriate. What are you gonna do? I don't I don't want flocked chest hair. So they did not do it on his arms, which probably would have messed up the paint apps on the tattoo if they had of, which is fine with me. I'll use imagination for that part. So they got him in his navy, pretty much pretty accurate there on the pants. I like the folds at the bottom. The only thing is it does kind of mess up some of his foot articulation. Sometimes he gets to where he don't want to stand if you don't have him just right. He's one that is can only really stand a certain few ways, but there's really no QC on this guy. It's a shame he didn't come with more accessories than he did, but what I mean, what do you realistically? What else are you going to give Shipwreck? He does have this pistol, no paint on it. It does have a little bit of sculpt work there on it, and I can't. It to me that looks. I never even paid that close of attention to it. It looks like that might be. Yeah, I've never paid attention to that on this figure before. It's got an anchor on it. It's got his boarding hook. I've never paid attention to that on this pistol. That's pretty neat. Bring that back, Hasbro. I'll forgive not having any paint apps on it because that is cool. I've never even noticed it before till I put it up. So this looks like it's probably a 9 millimeter, maybe 45 with the elongated barrel. Doesn't look like it's compensated in any way, but it fits. It fits in this holster well. Looks good on his side. He had the pistol. A lot of people wish the pants were lighter. I don't wish the pants were lighter. I wish they had taken the fading because it looks great, but they should have extended it down. It looks weird just on the thighs. They should have extended it down, especially the knees and at the cuffs. If you're going to make him look like he's wearing some faded jeans or some faded dungarees, you should have extended that down. It don't look bad. It just looks like it's not finished. But for Shipwreck, for me, here's the price of admission. I don't know why people don't like this pistol. It's, I don't know if it's a I don't know what it's supposed to be, but I think it's badass. It's like an old. It comes with like an old double barrel flintlock pistol. Like looks like it might break down to where it could be a shotgun. So maybe a flintlock sawed off double barrel with a pistol grip. Could you imagine? Like he boards your ship and points this thing at you. If you're within 5 feet, it's gonna blow you in half. Like maybe he did that to his former self, like it's a issue or a sequel to Looper or something. So this thing looks good. It looks good in his hand. Hey, sounds like Pretzel's awake in there. All right, you done, buddy? I never know when he's gonna see a squirrel or the neighbor that he sees 300 times a day go in and out and decide to bark. So Shipwreck, this the rope will come off if you don't like the rope. I leave it on him just because it kind of breaks up the blue. I mean, he's a pretty basic figure. People don't like the head sculpt for him. I have seen. I don't have a problem with it. Um, like I've said in the past, he looks like a Hector to me. He's some sort of a Hispanic heritage. I can see that. I don't know how people can't see that. But what is creepy is when you do that. He looks like a meal in RoboCop right before he gets hit with the toxic waste and splattered all over Clarence Boddicker's windshield. So he comes with the alternate hairpiece, which is goes on much better than some of them. So when you put that on him, like we hardly ever see Shipwreck without a hat. I mean, there's a few episodes of the cartoon and whatnot, but that's not a bad look for him either. It's just when I picture Shipwreck, it's him in his sailor cap. That's my look for Shipwreck. But he's a tough character. I don't get the hate for him that some people have, but I can kind of understand. I know one person that has a lot of hate for him, but I guess he's kind of got a reason for him. He got a bunch of them to crew the USS Flag before he realized he was getting the flag. So that's funny. If you know who it is and you ever heard him tell the story, it's really funny. So I can understand him. He gets a pass. The other part I did not get out of Shipwreck lore I just grabbed is this. This is the first time you see Shipwreck in the cartoon, and this is the best miniseries of the cartoon. I'll die on this hill. It's the first time you see a lot of key characters, but it's when you first meet Shipwreck. You see the Dreadnoks. It's just this, along with the run of the comic starting around issue 40 with Cobra Island, is the best GI Joe media to me that's out there. I love in this when you first meet him, he's for whatever reason hanging out in a Cobra bar, and he meets Flint and Mutton Junkyard, and they fight their way out of a Cobra bar, and they jump on his super futuristic sand yacht thing that I have yet to see somebody make the Fortnite boat into, but I would love to see it because it's not wouldn't take much to do it. You can figure out how to put a mast on it and kind of repaint it. It's kind of a combination between Jabba's sail barge and the actual Fortnite boat, but with sails. But that's the first time you see him in the cartoon, and some people did not like the cartoon itineration of him. The difference for him and a lot of characters, for me anyway, is the cartoon is what made me really, really like Shipwreck. I mean, all of the comics he was in, he was tough and he was cool, but I loved the cartoon representation of Shipwreck. He was a smartass. He was kind of always chasing women. He kind of took a stereotype of sailors and kind of dumbed it down for kids. And of course, you already, by that age, you kind of knew what that sailor stereotype was, and you could see it, and they did, what they could to kind of work that into a kid's cartoon where he's always, out. He would be out at the bars, or he was always chasing Cover Girl or whatever. So I always really liked that version of Shipwreck, and he may or may not be responsible for me being such a smartass when I was that age. I kind of blame him and Flint for it a little bit. I had to take another bark break there. So this is the classified version of Shipwreck. All in all, I think he's a really good update on the original figure. And like I said, he is one of my favorite characters. Shipwreck is without a doubt one of my top 10 Joes. Shipwreck's probably in the top 5 Joes for me. It probably goes something like Roadblock, Mutton Junkyard, Flint, Shipwreck, somewhere along in there. So this is what he looks like here. I was gonna put him on the Lazy Susan, but we don't need to put Shipwreck on the Lazy Susan for this. I like the figure. He is kind of basic. Um, I try to hold my love for the character out of actually rating the character, and I'm having to do that with this one because as far as what I think about the character, of course he's gonna be 4.5 or 5, but the figure for the detail that's in it and the accessories and stuff that he's got, the figure is a 3.5 yeehaws for me. So he's a like 3 and 1, 2. So he's a 3.5 because he is kind of basic. He does come with the gun that I really love. He does come with the hook. They didn't give us any rope for it, and I'm not crazy about peg leg poly. I mean, I don't. I'm sure they probably could have come up with another way. They said he was too small to articulate like they did with Timber. Maybe. I think they just didn't want to spend the money on it. Polly looks okay. I didn't spend a lot of time on Polly, but I would have at least liked Polly to have head articulation because if you put her up there, she needs to be able to look forward because this way she looks like she's just always nagging him. Even though she needs to be able to look forward. So this is my retro Limelight review on classified Shipwreck. Do you need him? No. If you're not a Shipwreck fan, you don't need this figure unless you're a completionist. But if you did like the original Shipwreck and you want him in your classified collection, he is a must have. He's a must have for me. As I said, he's one of the figures that got me into the classified line with the announcement he was coming. So, guys, if you like the review, I'd appreciate you hit that thumbs up, hit that like button, subscribe, maybe spread the word and tell some friends, listen to me talk about some of these Joes and stuff. And we will be back. I got a long way to go before I run out of Limelight characters. It's just finding the time to do them all. So I will see you guys next time on 3 Star Draw. Let's go get a beer.